come up with is, I would like to know, and I've probably already had it in my possession, but I don't, but I would like to know which employees are in what department.
Yeah.
And maybe that would help us understand
Clarify,
a little
yeah.
better, you know, why
Yeah.
is, you know, the water, you know, salaries higher than the sewer?
Right.
Why is water higher than recreation? You know, we did shift some employees around.
Yeah, well, I think I'm sorry, I think the line I was looking at was, on the administration for the city attorney, and we've spent 5,000, but we have budgeted 18,000. So, can't you?
Didn't we
Can't you
decide,
lower
didn't we
that
talk
some?
about the other day, didn't we talk about
We talked
combining
about
all
it needs to
the,
all be on one line.
all the
Right.
city attorneys? You know, he was sort of in there on every single one of
Right,
them.
right, like every page, under every
And
department.
you just correct me on that, because I'm just popping off of the
Yeah,
top of my
that's
head.
right, that's what we talked about.
You know, we are trying to, you know, we had miscellaneous all over the place. We had the city attorney broken down in 6 different areas or more. So what we were trying to do is condense.
But doesn't each department pay for their own expenses? So if you put it all in one spot, then you're saying general fund's gonna pay for the legal costs from the police department, the
And they
city
should,
part.
because when we get the bill, if we actually went by Doug's bill, which is 2 and 3 pages, and police call,
Right.
$100, or email to alderman, $15, if we went by
Right.
and broke that down, every time he sent in the bill, it would be too much, and it's actually not cost for. It could be just an
So
administrative.
just putting it under one.
Yeah, just one line, rather than, because I guess they just kinda picked where they wanted to place it, and that's why it was so many different lines, and that's why one is over when the other one isn't, and so on, so.
What should it come out of, Shirley? Should
Just
it
as
come
long as
out
it
of
come out of general fund.
administration, or just?
Yeah, that's why I would put it in admin,
Administration.
and just that whole bill comes out of admin.
You know, I guess I would think the way to approach this right here is, Angela, I'm sure you've had time to look at everything. You know, whatever questions, if you think something's wrong, Jim's pointed out several things that he questions, you know, just fire away.
Well, and mine is Jim and Judy combined. I mean, when I looked at the numbers, unless half the city employees don't get insurance anymore, I mean, a lot of that stuff doesn't look like it's right.
Okay, could you just, I did the same thing, I just want you, I put
Group
questions,
insurance
I
for 10
circled.
months, we've only paid $1,800 out of an administrative. $1,800 for how many employees?
2, probably. I'm not on insurance. Kim is part-time, she's not on insurance, so that only leaves Ambria and Debbie.
Okay. And I guess that goes back to your other, as to if we at least knew what employees were coming out of what accounts, then that part could make more sense.
Okay.
But then also, like Miss Judy said, a lot of these are way under what we've suggested budget for 18-19, but then you're taking money from other people that have stayed on budget, so why aren't we reducing other areas that we didn't spend in?
Well, what I looked at and reduced were, if I saw wiggle room in the lines, I took it down. It just makes sense. If you have 10,000 in your line and you've only spent 2,000 so far, I can see it being taken down, especially with where we are with the numbers. It just makes sense. And if it happens to come up to be more next year, you just amend it. But you need to get the current right now.
Right, I agree, yeah. So like the attorney fees on that first page, that's $10,000 is every area in the city coming out of one account, because
No.
all that was budgeted was $2,500.
No, in the as of, they're put in their lines.
Okay.
It's only in the suggested that I may have.
Then mine would be,
not put it
why
in.
in the world did we spend $10,462 on attorney fees? When
Um,
only
goodness.
$2,500 was suggested?
We spend way more than that on attorney's fees.
Yeah, there's probably some other lines.
Then
put
that
in there. It's
means
because
that
if-
number's not right.
No, that's right. If Doug contacts, whoever the Goodwin person is, that's a lawyer, then he sends us a bill for contacting him, then the Goodwin person sends us a bill for whatever he did, and it may be 2 or 3 different bills within whatever Doug did in the first place.
And if
And
you
I
look,
think part of that was Shreveport attorneys. It's not all Doug.
Some is
It's not
Keen
all
and
Doug.
Miller.
No, there was about over $5,000 spent with Keene and Miller.
and then like on every account that there's a supply and expense miscellaneous, whoever's in charge of the purse strings is spending double and triple on supplies. I don't know what supply that is,
In which one? In the
like
admin?
4 or 5. Administration is like that. Let's see, and the cemetery cutting was higher. The police department was almost double. Public services was double. The street department, well, theirs was close, but it's $9,000. Recreation was, 9 times higher than what was budgeted. The utility fund, I can't even do that multiplication in my head. We budgeted $500 and they spent $16,000 in supplies. I mean, whoever controlled who spent what, it's nowhere near what was budgeted. Wastewater, $1,500 budgeted and $13,000 was spent in that one. And then we sold $25,000 on the cemetery, just in revenue. So that's a lot of people buying some plots.
Yeah, I don't know when the last time they turned in some information.
Yeah,
but
actually,
he
that's
came in-
probably
It's a lot
not
of dead
out
people.
of the question.
He
There
came
is.
in, I've only seen one cemetery plot check come in since I've been here in July of last year. And he came in with that 20-something thousand. I don't know if he collected it all and brought it in at one time, or if that's how they usually do it, but there was no monthly.
And I'm not an auditor.
He came in one time.
Yeah,
Somebody did buy a.
About 10, if you buy about 10 plots, then
He
at
can't-
one time, then
You know, then you're talking, there's $5,000.
yeah.
He
This
came
is
in with
25,000.
20-something thousand
Yeah.
at one time.
Somebody did buy a lot.
I know,
And
I mean,
I can't remember
that
who it
doesn't
was.
sound
79,000.
really out of whack
The
to
CDs
me.
that were cashed.
Mm.
There was a 30 and a what?
I can't
20 or
remember who that
25 or
was,
something.
but I
Whatever the
remember
3 CDs,
that
they had to go
happened.
miscellaneous, there was no line for CD cashing.
Did the McCormicks do that by any chance? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Interesting.
Somebody buying a bunch of
Let's see. And I guess this is why I wish we had department heads, because when we look at some of this stuff, I would have liked to have been able to ask the people that were in charge of those areas what was going on, which is why I thought
Every single thing that we purchase now has got a purchase order.
this is from the last year. We have not been
Well.
doing purchase orders for the last
Okay, I'm
year.
just saying now, I mean, we can't go backwards.
But that's why we have humans to talk to.
But we have to go backwards because we have to amend a budget that was for then.
And if something broke down, I can't ask this piece of paper what broke down for them to tell me whether that's gonna happen again next year.
When did we start POs?
Around
Maybe
January.
October or something. It wasn't as strict then as when I started it, but now it's gotten to where they actually follow that because we don't pay it unless I have one. But, so we can probably go back to July, probably, and pull what you're looking for. It may not have a requisition with it, but
And
we
then,
can pull all
I
of
say
the-
this, and I'm really honestly, and I know y'all don't believe me, but I'm honestly not trying to be disrespectful. But throughout all of the council meetings, when questions are asked, most times it's an ambiguous answer. So it is better to come from the person that's spending the money than whoever's trying to follow stuff. And I know you've had to go through all the other, but they're making those decisions. And then like the $7,000 worth of bad debt, if we're paying attorney fees all the time, how are we not getting our debt back?
Well, that's when the software, after, I believe, 3, maybe 4 months of anyone that has maybe turned their water off or something, it's something they sent off to a debt collection company. And that's what that goes into. So it must have been $7,000 worth of total owed, utility monies. And that's what that line is for. So that's us sending off $7,000 worth of water that we haven't collected yet. And they do try to collect it, so we do have a line where they put money back into it. Small, but it's there.
And then like in water operations, there was, on that USDA loan, and I don't know if it's a balloon note or what, but there's a $75,000 increase as to what's budget versus what's actually done, kinda like what Ms. Judy said.
Looking at what you made up. So that's why your budget numbers look so off from when you actually look at real numbers. It seems just ridiculous, because these are real true numbers. I got these numbers from the auditor. She told us what we paid, principal and interest for last year and what's expected for next year.
So the 125 is what's expected for next year.
Yeah,
That's what it says in there, yeah.
So those actually, she told us actually that came out what was what.
And then like on the, operating transfers, also on that water operations.
I don't
Are
understand
we-
what that line is even
Yeah,
for,
that's
because we
my
don't,
question.
utility fund cannot transfer
Okay.
money to other funds because it is self-operated. So I don't know why 300,000 was, and that, I was kinda thinking maybe for those loans, because
Mhm.
there is a certain amount we have to transfer every month into the other account just for it to be drafted out. Why, I don't know, but I was thinking maybe that, but I can't ask because
There's
who
nobody
was
there.
doing it
Mhm.
wasn't there. So I took that line out, and
I mean, the supplies was my biggest, just like, and ad valorem taxes.
that's the property taxes.
Yes, we don't have any projection on that yet. Cause you had a question mark, unless it's right on this one. It's on the utility fund revenue. Under utility fund, $38,000.
My daddy has your dog. Bullet.
But the good thing, the fix is
He's
I
the
can
good dog.
actually just
Look
open
it
it
up.
and double click it and print it out to tell what's in that line.
I mean, he's at his house. I don't know.
Yeah, what is
He's got
the,
two other
what
dogs.
is
He's
that
got two dogs. I don't know
miscellaneous
what that
revenue,
is.
Charlika?
And it's more than like this, you have to see, that's the
Okay.
only
CD.
huge amount of money that we received. And who did we pay? We paid some police officers and Diane.
On our CDs, we paid Diane, we paid Peggy Browning and Sandra Jordan, paid off the money that came from, we took from industrial development and put in the general fund prior to.
We
our-
didn't, somebody else
Prior
did.
to our administration, so, but again, no pointing fingers, it just, but that's contrary to public opinion, that is where any CD money that we tapped into. it was-
Some of that money was taken was the previous administration. Some of that was the current administration.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you, but you can call
Out
it
of
what
the
you want.
industrial fund?
Yes, there was $100,000 taken out.
And that was paid back.
And some of it was paid back, but part of it was the CD note.
No,
You
it
took the
wasn't.
100,
No, it wasn't.
well then justify the $135,000, $145,000.
It was $110,000 from, that went back to the previous administration for the industrial development. When Diane left, she had close to $30,000 in accrued sick time and vacation time. And when we took our dispatchers from full-time to part-time, they collected all the money that our policy that was set up in 2009 by somebody completely different than us. They had $15,000, $16,000 coming to them too. We did not happen to have that much money floating around in the general fund. So, again, with consulting with Judy, I went over to First Guarantee Bank and got it out of the CDs. Do you think that's funny, or?
I think that's not true.
Well, I will tell you what,
You took $100,000 because you told me that you did.
I did 110.
Okay, you just said it was the previous administration that took it out of industrial development.
No, I was paying off
No.
money that previous, Denise, why would you just shake your head? I'm telling you the truth.
No, you're not.
Okay, never mind. Again, let's try and be productive as we can.
We are trying to be productive,
Okay.
but let's also be honest.
Okay. If I have to document every dollar, I
You
believe
should have to document
I
every
will
dollar.
I document every dollar.
That's why we're in such a mess.
Okay.
I mean, you wanna you were part of the past administration.
I was, you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
You didn't know that he took $100 and something thousand out of industrial development?
I actually didn't know that it was completely, it wasn't like it went into his pocket. It went in from industrial development into the general fund.
I was on the previous.
And you know what?
And I had
Sometimes,
no idea.
I've never claimed to know every rule and every law.
I had
But
no
I will
idea
tell
they
you
took
what,
money
you
Well,
can
he
write
took
this
$100,000
down.
out this administration.
Every single dollar that came out
He
of our
took
CD.
$100,000 this administration.
Out of
The
the CD.
paperwork is here. The proof is here.
I'm not disputing it.
You just said you did not take $100,000 out of the industrial development fund. I'm not talking about what you paid back out of the CDs.
I did the same thing that Dr. King did.
Okay, you just said you
But we paid-
didn't.
Well, I guess maybe
Okay.
somehow we got our wires crossed.
Well, let's make sure if we're gonna talk about where certain money went, let's talk about where it really went.
Okay, and it was put back. That was the problem. Before, it wasn't put back. So, anything. Anybody else that has a question, I will say that I consult one of our council people on every single dollar that was taken from our CDs. Never did I take this upon myself, contrary to what Mr. Slagle might think, contrary to what you might think.
With your remarks, Mayor,
Pardon?
can you be constructive and positive
I'm
with
trying
your
to,
remarks?
I'm trying to.
You don't like it when we say something to you, but you don't mind saying something to us.
No, I'm just.
Thank
I
you.
want
What a good job.
Well, thank you.
I think what we did our best to pay back some of the money back into the industrial fund that was taken out by other people.
I mean, I understand that.
We tried
I
to
understand
get some
that.
of it back in there where it was
I understand
supposed
that.
to be.
I understand that because legally the money was not supposed to be
No,
taken
it was
regardless.
not.
But the thing about it
And
is
they
for
should have
him
taken it
not
out
to
of
just
CDs,
say.
not the industrial.
But he
fund.
should not have said that he didn't take the money out, that he was
I
paying
never-
back a previous administration.
I never
If you're
meant
gonna
it
blame
like
a
that.
previous administration, I mean, because he's not here.
I'm not blaming anybody.
I am,
See,
that's what they did, and it was wrong.
Okay, I'm not here to,
I
we're not,
mean, if
we're
it's
not
wrong,
here.
it's
Well,
wrong.
just if you're watch how you say things because you also took $100,000
Yes,
out of
you're-
industrial
you're
development.
right,
Okay.
you're right, I did.
Well, and it's a timeout bridging moment, because I don't know how many people are running again. I think the biggest complaint, I think we as a whole could say, regardless of consulting one person, two people, no people, is the lack of communication.
I agree 100%.
Because, and I'll be Jim for a second. Y'all can say whatever negative feelings you have about me. If I have a question, I ask it. Whether you want me to ask it or not. So mine is just share. I mean, we're all sitting there getting financials every month. If only one person knows what happened, when it comes out on paper and you get these questions, it makes you look like you're hiding something. I mean, it just does.
If you have a question, all you got to do
I ask
is,
questions.
We try to do that at the council meetings, but we don't get an answer.
okay.
I have a question,
Okay.
Charlene, on the utility fund revenues. I think y'all may have said something about this. Under delinquent
Yeah,
fees.
that's what you just said.
Yes, that's the penalty that's added after the 11th.
Okay.
That's that $10 fee that everybody pays. once
Well,
it's added.
why, did y'all say why we're so far off here?
It was never really broke down right. It was never accounted for. They didn't have real true numbers kept up with every month of how much was delinquent fees. So when you guess at it, your guess is gonna be wild.
Well, it's pretty wild.
Mhm.
Yeah, most of them are.
65,000 was what we guessed, and I guess I did too. I think,
Well, if we only charge about $120,000 a month for water bills, how many of those people are gonna get the $10 fee? And then you do that times 12, I don't see where you would think you would get
But then you-
you
65.
would
Then-
never,
then-
ever
then-
get 65,000.
No, but then you get, then you get the
$10 from
50,
me.
you get the
Because I
50
do
on the
10 every
19th.
I do too.
Right.
Every year.
Thank you.
So that 10 could turn into 60.
And can
And
we,
actually it does on probably 40, 50 every month.
That's how
You know, you
Charlotte
get
did it
that, the
myself.
cutoff notice,
But
You know.
it's just not.
and I'm not saying that figure's right, I don't.
No.
and tell me one more time, so I can get it through my head, what the
That's
miscellaneous
this one.
revenue
That's
is.
what she just
Okay.
brought
Yeah,
us.
what I just
Okay.
did was print it out.
Okay.
What I have is a spreadsheet. Every day when the ladies, take in their money.
Right.
We break it down the next day and put it in the line that it's gonna need to go to in the budget. So,
Okay.
that miscellaneous, I can actually
Mhm.
click on that line and see everything that's in there. So for that 38,000, what is it, $50, whichever of that.
50.
That's what most of that money is. $50 when they actually get cut off and it's added to their bill. Whenever they do pay it, that goes into that line.
Right,
So that's what it is. That wasn't a CD. All the CDs, I believe,
okay.
is general fund, I think.
I think that's all in my big ones.
So, like I was about to say, I don't really know how the budget meetings actually usually go, but I think what works best is to kind of go down the list and see, hey, yeah, that looks right, no, it doesn't, and then let's make some changes and see how that looks next on paper. That kind of works.
Well, how about the 85,000 for turning out the paper, it's not in the actual figure.
It didn't happen between July 1st and now. It must have happened before. I saw 33,000, which was a journal entry from the auditor.
How much?
So they must, 33,000.
33.
So that must have been something that happened prior to 7/1, but it's an entry in there. I
How
guess
about
the
the two
charge for
lawnmowers
7/1.
that they're using right now, it's not in the actual figures.
The who?
The
Two
two
lawnmowers.
lawnmowers, brand new lawnmowers. Is that-
There's a capital cost for lawnmowers at
I
the
saw
bottom
that
of
for
somewhere.
29.
That's what was budgeted, but I think we only spent
We
16,000.
budgeted 30 and we paid almost half of that
Yeah.
to get two. We
Budget
budgeted 30 for
30,000
one.
For the next year, 15,000 for last year's budget.
What in
No
the-
actuals.
what was adopted on this budget that I walked into said, whatever is at the bottom of this page, it's actually her spreadsheet, I just printed it out.
It was 30,000.
So if it says,
Your
if it's-
paper here says 15.
that's what was, is it an actual, what we spent?
You know, you didn't spend anything. You budgeted 15.
No, we spent 15.
It's not in the, it's not in this paper. I mean, it's under, whatever department that falls under. Public Works.
Oh, I
General
just
fund,
saw
street
it. I
fund.
can't
Yeah.
find it now.
Yeah, it was in there, just, that's not been an update copy. But it was-
But then we budgeted 30 and we spent about half of that, a little over half, and got two mowers.
My paper
Yeah,
said you
because the
budgeted
police
15, you didn't spend
It may
any,
be
but you
in the
did buy
line
two,
where-
and next year you budgeted
Where's the light,
30,000.
Angel? Well, this is the old one.
I know we ain't got no pay.
Then that is inaccurate.
Wasn't
It
it
is
29?
I'm
Okay.
gonna look again to see where it is, because it's in here somewhere.
I can't find it now that I'm wanting
Can we come up with pay compensation?
Okay, it's on, it's under the general fund, street department.
to. Yeah,
It's not showing
that's
there,
where I'm
but it
looking.
should
Zero turn motors, 15,000, no expense for the current fiscal year, budgeting 30,000 for
Yeah.
next year.
So we didn't buy them.
What page was that on, Jim?
Like,
It's
Does it
not
say?
numbered.
Five,
It's
five.
under general fund, street
Street
department expenses. I see what you're talking about.
Okay, yep, I do too.
And the three weed eaters for $5,000 budgeting. New year.
No, I don't see it.
like
Right
page
up on,
5.
it's right up on the lawnmower.
Maybe we're paying for them 2
Mhm,
months
for
from
that,
now.
like
I don't know.
It's hard not to see the new mowers up and down the street.
Yeah.
Especially their red bud.
But there was something else I kept
Keep going.
looking at. It was a
Water.
well, it was a capital expense.
Wastewater,
Right.
What was that?
general revenues.
It was capital expense 29,000,
I saw it, actually.
and I couldn't figure out what that was.
Vivian Industrial Development.
It was 60,000 in the budget for ground maintenance at the ballpark, they didn't spend any money.
That
He did
was
it all
the one
himself,
time we were
I
going to
think.
try to redo the
The light.
lighting over there, which that didn't pan out. Let's see.
No, it's local creation. It should be this one. It is.
General fund, street department expenses.
So
Right
the
here.
Okay, yeah.
you council people don't get this thing each month when we have the council meeting?
Not
No.
this one.
Jim, I
This
think
is
you're
the one
you're
I like.
quite aware that she's been working very, very hard to.
Oh, my lord, I know it. She's
There
there
you
all
go.
the time. I come by here at 6 o'clock at night,
Yes.
8 o'clock.
Okay.
Her car's there and the kids are running around.
Mhm. Okay,
I like this one.
Help me
better.
find
And I notice she's not here during the mornings
Page
usually either.
If it's
it. It
in
was a
order.
capital expense and it was 29.
The police had one for 25, but that was that car.
And I can't. I could've sworn I circled it in red.
Oh, Lord, I don't know. 1700 something, I don't know. I can't get that. 1735 multiplied, I think. Who's going to get it?
Well, what's the comment from the police department about their budget being cut?
you know, actually, we had the meeting, it wasn't even a meeting, I guess it was an informative get-together the other day. They, in my opinion, if anybody cares, it really went quite well. They were really very cooperative in making the necessary. And they- in the last couple of years, the people power.
I'm talking about this year.
What is that? That 29,000?
That's for the truck.
Yay, okay.
That's
I
the
was
truck.
hoping that's what it was.
It's their
Okay,
no
good,
truck.
good, okay.
First time in close to either 4 or 5 years they
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
vehicle.
I'm glad, good.
Did the clerk find out where those zero-turn mower actual expenses were and estimated weed eater costs?
We haven't had any weed eater costs that I've come across.
Well, these
But
budget for next year, 3 of them at $5,000.
Probably because we didn't, I don't know, did we get them this year? I
No.
don't think we did, so
Do they cost $1,600 a piece?
I haven't even seen an estimate.
Okay,
for
what
it,
about
so.
the two green?
Some of the weed eaters that they get, or you might know a little bit more about them than I do, they're like
Not
a,
weed eat.
excuse me,
I do a lot of weed eating. But the zero turn, you bought 2 last year, and come out during red light.
Well, I wondered if like under your weed control and stuff like that, you have no line items for that, so is some of that account going to other things for weed control, maybe that's where that money is, or?
Oh,
okay. I was gonna say, some of the weed eaters that I think they need are actually like a chainsaw slash weed eater. I'm not a weed eater person, I don't claim to be a weed eater person.
$400,
Pardon?
you know, $400 or
Okay,
$500.
again, I don't, you know, a lot of these,
That's the point he's trying to make, is the actual cost compared to what you have budgeted for 3 is no.
I will say, and this is Tommy and us, work very hard at trying to get bids. And if there is a weed eater out there, that one is 700 from somebody and the same one is 400 elsewhere, we will get the $400 one.
And I
What
don't
about
see
the
where the
zero-turn
weed
mowers?
eaters.
What would you like to know
They're in the
about?
budget
It's for this year.
for last year.
We saved half of what we got. They were budgeted at 30,000.
No, it's right here.
We got 2 of them.
It's 15.
We got 2 of them.
Mandy, would you tell him what this says?
Are you looking under the street department?
15,000, and they didn't pay for any.
For 2 mowers.
And then this year, they're budgeting 30,000, twice as much, and they hadn't bought one yet.
We've already got 2 mowers, and we bought them for half
They're
what
not
we
on,
projected.
they're not on the actual financial statement.
What's that under?
They're not under, they're
General
not
fund,
on
street
here, is
department,
what he's
line
saying.
General
89,
fund, street
well,
department.
8625 and 8626.
No, those aren't for, those aren't for,
Well, it doesn't have a
maybe I'm on
suggested.
different numbers.
How,
It's 21.
how much did we
Line
spend?
21.
We spent about
On line
$16,000 on two.
Okay,
That was
well,
2016, 17, but we're on 18, 19, suggested
We gonna buy
there's
'em again?
0.
we
No.
stayed way within
They
budget,
budgeted
they're just
last
not
year
on
for
here.
15,000, it was not bought for this current year,
Is it-
17,
We're not
18, they
gonna get any
budgeted
more.
5,000.
Yeah.
What we have.
I
And
guess
we
the
haven't
thing
spent
is,
any.
we're not showing an actual.
That's what-
There's
Because
no
we didn't-
actual.
We didn't
Yeah.
buy anything, it was
Yeah.
budgeted this for last year.
Right.
And then we didn't spend anything this year, but that's only was budgeted
But we just
5,000.
bought
You
those
got
like
two
in
new ones.
March.
We did get.
They're
two
just not on
this-
here,
They
I
may be
think,
in
Jim.
a
But then
miscellaneous
they gonna buy 'em
line then,
again,
rather
too.
than
Huh?
in here.
They may not be.
We-
on it.
we
They're
did-
not on
Are
it.
you talking about right here?
$16,000.
Okay, there should be right here.
But look
But
over
they're
here for the.
not.
But is there a
Yeah, I see
miscellaneous
that.
anywhere
No,
that would
we-
show that much money? Would
Are
there
we-
be a miscellaneous
Yeah,
that would
that
show
was
about
16?
$9,000.
Weed eaters or the mowers?
The mowers.
The mowers are 16,000, and that's what I just printed out this profit and loss page to
Right.
show where it is. It's 16,000. And it was budgeted for,
It is, it's right
The
in there.
30,000.
So supplies and expendable is the
No.
20,
it's here, it's right here on here. It's just
It's
not
not there.
right.
saved on this updated list that I just printed for y'all.
So
that's
we
not
were
on there.
under budget and they're not in the budget for this
No,
next year.
Yes.
They are not in the
Yes.
budget.
But it's
We
not
should be
showing
good,
in our
they're just
actual.
not
No, it's not on there.
the right figures here, okay.
So-
Budget figures
don't.
do you have?
I have to-
I got one right here.
So I will plug these two
No,
numbers, the
Jim.
16 and the 24,000 in those
No, it
two
isn't.
spots.
Okay.
For the mower and the police
Where am
vehicle.
I? Look, right
These
here,
haven't been-
right
Budget
here,
for-
2018, 2019, zero turn war, there's nothing
There's a
out here.
card,
Yeah,
I think
there's
for 30.
25.
There's 25.
Okay.
24.
Good luck.
Because I remember the.
And there's nothing for weed eaters, there's nothing for a green waste trailer.
No,
We
didn't buy
did
those.
budget for one, but apparently, I mean, we need one, I guess,
What
is what
department
I'm
gets the new
saying.
truck this year?
Well, here's the weed eaters.
Yeah,
So what
They're not,
happens when
they hadn't been
I know.
bought, but they're in the budget.
somebody goes over
Yeah,
there and
I
Not the
got you.
original, well, I say that's, it's just hard, we got three budgets, three
Yeah.
numbers.
yeah,
We do try to control it.
right.
So that is gonna be changed. I will plug that in there. I didn't wanna put it in there and print y'all a whole new 45 pages right now. So I'll make all of the changes that we're saying now and then send y'all
An
updated.
updated
Yeah,
Okay.
rather than print it out every
We,
time.
we need it in there that we did buy the mowers.
Yes.
And the weed eaters.
We didn't.
No, we didn't buy weed
We got the
eaters.
motor. The motor
Okay,
and the
we're
police
gonna
vehicle.
buy the weed eaters.
No, because we're not budgeted for weed eaters. So we can't buy weed eaters.
Weed eaters are 5,000.
Okay.
$5,000.
Let's regroup. We need to, we need the figures in there that we did buy the mowers, and we need figures for next year to purchase weed eaters. Is that right?
If that's what y'all want. Weed
Is that what
eaters
everybody
budgeted
wants?
for, there's 5,000 beside 3 weed eaters budgeted for this current year. We have not bought weed eaters
But
yet.
that would have to be bought within the next month, well, 2 months.
Which
Yeah.
they will be, won't they?
Will they? Will we
Well, I
buy
hadn't-
Well,
them?
hopefully not for $5,000.
I haven't heard anything about getting them. But the mowers, we did purchase. That's right, that's what that was.
You
$16,000.
start buying those steel weed eaters,
We won't spend $5,000.
No, it won't be 5,000.
I buy $79.99, but,
Walmart.
Yeah.
We gotta have
Am
more.
I
but then mine
infringing
break
your
every
stuff?
year and I have to go buy another one, so.
I have to,
Yeah, they need
I
the
have
heavy
to-
duty one.
I gotta go over it all again anyway, so I'm not.
Yep.
And why are we feeling the need to cut code enforcement? Whenever we need code enforcement worse than we need anything in this town right now.
Well, again, we were trying to encourage our police department to,
Well, they can do some things, but
Right.
there's some things they cannot do. And I've called the police department several times. They've taken care of me, but there's some things that aren't in there that isn't what they do.
Yeah, the zoning restrictions.
Well, I mean, not just that, but, and maybe that's why he didn't ever come to check to see if there's a sewer leak under the house next door to me. But, I think right now we definitely don't need to cut code enforcement. Our town is the trashiest place that I have ever been to in my life.
Our state is the trashiest state.
Well, no, our town is trashy,
I agree with you.
very trashy.
Can I say something? In regards to the zoning? Talk about breakdown communication. Ooh, we need some serious talk on zoning.
Serious talking what?
Zoning.
Zoning. And you know, Bobby and I work close together. And I'm in total agreement with you, Denise, that he don't need to be cut. But he's been placed in a position, just like I have, where, you know, communication is just not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing everything I can to keep it afloat and make sure that it's done correctly, but, thank you.
Communication in what area? Oh, you talking about with the zoning?
Zoning.
Zoning board?
No,
Okay.
zoning, period, just mention the word zoning, and everybody goes, nobody knows it. One other thing, because I don't wanna say this in a council meeting, am I being punished?
Are you
My
looking at me?
grass at the museum has not been cut in over a month, until this morning. And they went up there with a push mower, beat it down, didn't blow anything. And I guess they didn't use a weed eater because they don't have any, but anyway, but I mean, I have done that's the most visited place in town.
Well, and speaking on that to help you, and again, I don't know all them, and you can say it's because I don't come down here enough, whatever. But comments from some people are that we might need to screen that department a little bit more, because if they can't run those machines, they don't need to be employed over there. And if they don't realize that if James is over here loading the truck and I'm watching him, then I don't need to be employed, because I should be helping James load the truck, not sit there and just watch James load all the green waste himself. That area, I've heard like 3 or 4 citizens they think middle school kids could do a better job than what some of them people do.
Well, I watched them
You got lots of breakdown with the supervision, I feel like, in that department.
for 3 days, the week before last week, the week before last week, they mowed all that back behind me, that vacant. 3 days it took them to mow all of that. And I kept thinking, they're gonna come over here tomorrow. They're gonna come over here tomorrow. They're gonna come over this side track.
It was just.
Did it really take them 3 days?
Well, they took 3 days. And so, you know, and I'm going, am I being punished for something?
Baby, let me tell you
It's
something.
horrible.
It's the same way with
I
the
have got
parish. It ain't no
weeds and bushes growing up.
We just need to get some
through-
weed killer and just kill all the
different.
grass,
It ain't no
apparently.
different. You got people
Weeds
sit on
growing
the
out
job,
creek.
watch you work it out, ain't no different. And
People's just lazy nowadays.
that's just what it is.
They are.
It's not like it used to be. It's a shame.
Work ethic
When I
is,
first went to work parish, it wasn't like that. Now, you could be busting your butt, and guys standing right there watching, he ain't gonna help you, so it's nothing new. It's nothing new,
What do you do?
People
But
just
I
don't
didn't
wanna
wanna
work
say any
now.
of that
Ain't
in
no
an
hard
open
work. The
meeting.
old,
I don't
after
want
this
to get
generation
Tommy
is
on
gone,
there,
I feel sorry for these
but, you
people.
know,
It's
And you're
pitiful.
right.
yep.
It's everywhere you go.
If they
Yeah.
pick up
I don't
these
try to
jobs
sick
that are for
anybody
everybody.
on anybody.
And I mean,
No,
you hire
but
guys.
I just don't want him,
$7
you know,
I
and
know,
I've had
I
several
mean, hell, they can't really
conversations,
be
but,
expensive.
that's right.
$9 an hour.
That's
I just
right.
want
If
the
you expect
grass
for them to go out there
cut.
and bust his butt,
Mhm.
he'll do more higher than anybody.
Yeah.
These guys at the parish start out with $13 an hour. The hell, they lazy.
Cause you know, we are advertised through the Tourist Bureau.
So, I mean,
People
Well, I've
traveling
suggested we try to get
will get on that byway
inmates
and it.
to come
It'd be
up.
great.
You know,
We can do it.
they're going through here,
We can do that.
I mean, they,
and
They do work.
besides
They
me,
do
you're
work
the next
programs.
stop, you know.
I don't know.
Don't
Because
you
they
know
always
they'd like
ask
to
me,
have some
work
fresh
Where's
air?
that place? I said, right there.
That's the part.
So I'm
See,
giving
a lot
you
of
some
them tell you
business,
what-
sir.
tell you what
Thank
they-
you.
I'm gonna tell you what they'll
Much
tell you.
appreciated. I
I'll
actually
tell you
give you
what they-
business.
now, if you can pay them, see, like they work. for
Why
you.
have we not ever
Right.
had
That's a
somebody
private
come
entity.
in
Right.
and do,
You
you
have
say, like your
public
previous
entities like ourselves
administrations,
that
and you have
collect the taxes for that.
problems with other
Now it's
things,
being
but why
great, that's
do we
why
not
you
get a
want cars
hard
on the
rate
sheriff.
card? We waste
Right.
so much money in other places
Yeah.
He
and
want that,
things
he
that
want
really
that
aren't that
5%,
important.
2%, whatever
Why
it
do we not
is. That's what he
pay,
wants.
like your
Yeah.
accounting firm
So
or
that's probably why
outside
I'm not
firm
upset.
that
I mean, if we can
has
get
no
them,
interest in
I
helping
I mean, I
you
think we should check
amend
into
your
it.
budget
Sure,
so
I agree.
everything
I
looks
mean,
good
I've
for the
tried
state.
this for
Somebody
3
that will come
years.
in and say,
Yeah.
okay, let's have a
I mean, if
fresh
we
start,
had-
just
during
like
the summer
Michelle
months.
does.
Right, right.
She she doesn't have to
You know what I'm
come in
saying?
and
You need to
clean
call
up
him
somebody's
and
mess.
sit down with him and see what
Or
he say.
clean up the
Huh.
previous
Call him, sit
administration's
down with him and
mess.
see what he say.
Or all of the waste
I've
that
talked
may
to
be
Steve
in our
Prater
budget
several
that-
times about different things,
The
but,
lawnmowers and the weed eaters are probably a minute thing.
well, I mean,
but
I've
we
gotten
all
some
kinda
good
know
response
what
from
this
him.
stuff
Yeah, I like
costs.
Steve.
Yeah.
So that's an easy thing to point out.
nice guy.
So if you have little easy things that
got
can
a lot
be
of- he got a
pointed
lot on
out,
his plate. He
what
told me
about
he
the
gave
big
a
stuff that
presentation
we
about the
really don't
prison.
know how to put a
Because
dollar
it's
amount
way
on unless we
over
got an invoice?
See, it's
Why has
3
nobody, I know
times
you
many
have your
supposed to
people
be in there.
that
And see,
the
it's-
guy that Jim talks
building
about
is owned
come in and try to
maintained
help you
by
amend
Capital
stuff
Prison.
through the year, but
See what I'm saying?
why have we never, why do we
A
keep
whole lot
on
of them
with
other bills, they just.
adding on and adding on and
maintained by
never
Capital
stop and
Prison.
say, okay,
You know.
let's restart, figure out where our money's actually going with your POs or what's actually happening here, where we can follow the paper trail instead of, okay, well, I'm $10,000 out of budget here, so maybe I need to shuffle money around, or like Denise fussing at you about trying to pay your bills and take care of your business, trying to move money, shuffle money that maybe, it may not be, it looks questionable, but maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not. But when do you get to the point that you say, I'm in such a mess here that I've got to stop this spiraling out of control to reset and start over? Or have
We're
have a
hoping we
That's
have
what we're trying to do now.
reset.
We've been trying to do.
We've
That's
been
what we have.
trying
All the
hard.
problems.
James, let me tell you one thing,
That's
I
what we
just
had
to
now.
clear
That's
this
what
is
we're
coming
doing.
from
We're
me.
trying to do now.
I'm not blaming the past administration for anything. I don't mean I think Dr. Taylor did a good job. I think Diane was a clerk for 41 years. Obviously, she must have done an awful lot of good things. But I'm just saying, we
Just like your auditor
Had-
says you're overturned in that office and you have a different person, well, she came from a different place, you may have so-and-so from a different place. Well, it's hard to know what the norm is.
That
So-
goes with turnover.
Well, and in the last
when
3
do you-
years,
when do you
it's
say-
There's been a lot of
nothing's been
turnover.
Let's
That's what I'm
pump the
talking about.
brakes.
you know, we
I know you've been working on it, but you.
It doesn't happen
you're doing
overnight, I
soft-
can
you're
promise
doing
you.
soft restarts when you are almost out of time. We'll have new people in here, so it takes you 3 or 4 years to figure out what's going on in our community. I mean, I know we have lots of sales tax down, but we all live here and we have to make the most of it.
And that's what, I promise you, doing the best I know how to do.
I did
Judy, what
sell-
do you-
Whether that's
doing
acceptable or
straight
not,
line now?
What now?
What are the things that you have done that's making a complete change or really
Well,
turning?
we're hoping the figures are more correct.
But not
But James is
personnel
talking
or-
about more than accounting, that's what he said, what else besides
And
trying to
we're
get numbers?
hoping-
To have some starting
We're
point and have
hoping the new-
consistency.
You know what you could do? Why don't you run for mayor and really
The new
implement
program,
anything
computer
that,
program. We're hoping
Yeah,
that
how
will
many
help
people, though, I show up
straighten
every month,
things
and how
out
many
because
people
the
you
other, and
care
knew
enough
how to do
show
the
up,
other.
really, so that
Yeah,
ought to-
I agree with you.
that ought to
And
be
knew
good-
how to
good
do
answer there.
the old computer
The
program.
bookkeeper, Jim, the old bookkeeper.
The old bookkeeper.
I'm not fussing, I just
And-
say.
I understand, I appreciate it.
I hate to
And
see
knew
my
how
town
to use that bookkeeper
turn into
program.
something
But
that's not desirable
apparently,
for
everybody
anybody.
else has had
Yeah.
a lot of trouble
Why
with
do
it.
people,
I mean,
why
we're
do
talking
people that have money
Ashley,
here in
we're
our
talking
community,
Nancy.
in oil or
I
any
don't
other
think
business,
Charlotte
they all
wanted
live
to
outside the
use
city
it.
limits, so
I
they
mean,
don't
it's
care.
not just one
Why are they
person.
not
So
here, you know?
hopefully, with a simpler bookkeeping program, that
Bookkeeping.
it'll
accounting
help
program.
straighten some of this out. And plus, it should be easier for the council to understand.
Well, we have the new computer program, do we have anybody to operate it?
Well, Charlotta's been doing a pretty good job trying to get the figures the way they are. We made it through our audit, which we were holding our breath. And we're none of us going to jail, so I would assume we've done fairly well.
Does any of our guys have any more questions on anything that has to do with this budget? You know, I know I have had a lot of question marks, and I'm gonna sit down with the clerk.
Yeah, I'm gonna
and-
come in and talk to Charlotte at some point and make sure I'm thoroughly understanding.
You know, one thing we do have to do as a
some of
group,
this.
we are going to have to amend this budget.
Yeah, we
So,
are.
And we have to
You know-
amend it and vote in a new one, and enough time
That's
to not
another
at least
sheet.
get that finding off of our record.
This one.
So we need to meet another time this week and look at whatever's been suggested to see if that works. You have to at least adopt a balanced budget. And then if you need to amend it, but at least let's get it in on time and at least let the numbers be balanced.
But last year, you didn't have amended, balanced budget when you went into the new fiscal year.
No,
It has never been adjusted since then,
no.
No,
and the law says that you will do that when you're over 5 or 10%, wherever the
We're
number
trying
is.
to do that right
It's
now.
5%.
And it hadn't been adjusted yet.
We don't.
That's what we're
But
fixing to
Jim,
do.
Well, you're not supposed to do it
in defense
at
of
the
all
end.
of them though, she come in right
It doesn't matter who's sitting over there.
Well, that wasn't Charlika
The
not
law
wanting to
says-
amend the budget.
The law doesn't say that Charlika.
That is
gets
all the
special
previous ones
No,
not
the
wanting
current-
to
the current
amend the
fiscal
budget.
The
year.
Larson
Now-
Act says the budget is the mayor's responsibility
Okay,
anyway,
and the
so the
mayor-
mayor should have amended the budget if the budget needed to be
The mayor
amended.
can't amend anything without
No
the
clerk,
council.
no bookkeeper is
So-
responsible for that, that's the mayor's job.
Right.
So
But
we're
then
not
I
gonna
was told
blame,
every time somebody mentioned, like Ashley or somebody
Uh-huh.
mentioned amending the budget, the auditors always threw cold water on that and said, no, you don't need to amend it until right at
We
the
don't
end.
have to amend it till
That-
the end of
You don't have to
the 31st of
amend it.
June.
Every year,
And you don't have to amend it if it's out of balance. If it's out of balance, you're already gonna get that right up, just off top. You only have to
I'm
amend
just
it
telling you
when it's
what I
that
was
5%
But in the audit
over,
report,
under,
what you gotta go by.
right before you go
They
into the
said
next
the
year.
state law says that you gotta
So
amend
the
it.
fact that y'all adopted
And they
it
make a, they
unbalanced
take
was
exception
already
to it
gonna get
every
you
year in
that
the
far.
audit report.
There's
But
nothing
last
you can do
year, they
about
said
it. You
it's
change
okay
it the
to
next
start
day,
out
that
with a
wasn't
bad
gonna take
one.
that away.
Yeah.
So
And then at
it
the end
didn't
of the
matter
year,
if we did it
they said,
July
well,
2nd or
you
if we
don't,
wait
you didn't
till
change it
June
during the
1st.
year, and you're supposed to,
Yeah.
by the law.
It-
Not
it's-
something I come up with.
Well,
If anybody has any questions
get-
for
we
the
get-
clerk,
misinformation sometimes.
She sure goes.
Did we get a new bookkeeper?
we have
Yes.
Somebody that's coming in?
She's here.
Is she? I called the other day and somebody answered the phone. I didn't know, so I didn't know if that was.
name is Lisa. It's actually Melissa, but she likes to be called Lisa.
And she's an accountant.
No, she's not an accountant,
That'll be our new bookkeeper, I guess.
possibly.
What was
Why
her
is she not
background?
in here right now?
She did the bookkeeping for a Team C construction, Chester Kaufman out of Mooringsport. I called Chester. I called the last two people she worked for. Everybody spoke highly of her. Chester's got a pretty impressive construction business. He spoke highly of her. Do I know if she can do it or not? I don't know.
She got a resume,
Yes, she has a resume, Jim.
and she's got accounting background.
I already told you she doesn't have, the only accounting background she had was when she was with Team C Construction.
we didn't have any other resumes with anybody with accounting background?
We had one, no, actually, well, we did, we had a CPA, yes. We had one lady, she was from Coshada. Another lady was from Minden, that was in heating and air conditioning.
We had a CPA?
She was willing to work part-time and tell us what hours she was going to work, and she was very expensive.
She was what?
Very expensive.
How expensive
And
was
only
she?
part-time and tell us.
Correct me if I'm
what
wrong, I
hours
think she
was gonna
wanted
work.
$45,000 a year to work 20 hours a week at her choosing.
But then she
I'll
needed
take
to-
that with
That's
And
what
she
I
wanted
said,
benefits.
Betty, that's exactly what I said. I want that job.
We've been paying, what, 3 people to do that job? The bookkeeper. We got 3 people working back in there,
Hopefully, we're gonna find
I
one good
can't
one.
keep up.
so
I
it could
don't
be
know.
45,000.
Could be, hopefully not.
That's what you call helping, Jim.
Okay.
Might not have been a bad deadline.
She can get the job done.
Well, does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to run by the clerk right now, or, you know, again, how I'm gonna approach this, I have made all my X's and O's and questions, and I'm gonna try and have a sit-down at the clerk's convenience and hash out some of my concerns. And whatever we are going to do, we need to do it relatively soon.
We have to agree on something and then introduce it officially so they can be advertised somewhere by Monday, probably, so I can advertise it for the 30 days and adopt it in time enough to be before July. It needs to happen this week.
Well, how come it's taking this long to start this process? Usually it's done by now, isn't it?
Yep, usually our audit was
About March
completed on
should be
time
start.
too.
but
What's that got to do with the,
We're running behind.
pardon?
We're running behind. We can't all be like you, Jim.
Well, I just feel like, I don't know how that's possible to have that done by the end of the week whenever we don't even have anything complete to go by. And, I mean, we're just rushing it, and that's not a smart thing to do.
Again, we've got some advice from our Cook and Morehart group.
Well, you may have, but we also got advice from Cook and Morehart last
Okay.
year, and a budget was
It
adopted.
is up to you.
A
It is up to
budget,
the
let me
council.
finish saying what I'm
Okay,
saying.
there you go.
A budget was adopted that had a deficit at the time. So that was by Cook and Morehart saying, yeah, do it. I mean, so if we're saying we're gonna start over and we're gonna do things right, then we need to do it right and not rush and do it.
Okay.
I have a question. It has to be voted on by the last day of June, is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Okay,
didn't do
so
it till
if we have, and you have to have a first reading,
yes,
and then you have to vote on it.
you have,
You have to
yes,
put
you
it
have to
in the
advertise it.
newspaper for 30 days, though, too.
You have to vote, you have to introduce it.
Okay, that
and
blew my
advertise
thought.
it for 30 days and then adopt it by the end of June.
So if we,
The paper comes out. It comes out on a Thursday and we have a 12
Right,
o'clock deadline
right.
that Monday. So that's why it had to be next week
okay,
rather than the next
Okay,
one, to be able to
was
get
it-
it out
was
for
it-
next Friday for that first run.
Was this meeting, giving the public 24 hours notice
This one, the special call? Yes,
at
I
4 o'clock?
posted
Because I
at
noticed on the door
3:45.
out there, it's not out there usually till 5 o'clock on Fridays.
No, well, if the meeting is at 6, I may put it at 5. I put it as I'm walking out the door. But this one I did about 3:45, I put both of them up because I
Okay,
already had them.
do you put the time on the list after the
Not the
notice?
one outside, I put it on the one that I keep a copy of when I put the monthly meeting
That's
together.
not very good internal control. The public don't know about it.
The public doesn't have to know what time I put it up. I don't
Yes, they
think.
do. I do, because if you don't get 24-hour notice, it's not a legitimate meeting.
I mean, I
Is
said
that
you
very
can
simple?
take that. I put it
I got
together.
mine.
Diane House always put it on there, or Debbie Williams said, whoever worked in the office there.
Do we have any other questions for Charlene right now?
Recreation real quick.
Okay.
We budgeted for supplies last year, about 3,000. There's nothing in that one for this year.
Which supply?
It's line 189190.
Okay.
But then on the one for, well, let me rephrase that. On one copy we have, we budgeted for supplies. And then on the new copy, there's no budget for supplies. But there is $30,000 worth of maintenance and repair. So are we repainting, or what are we doing that we're adding 30,000 from last week that wasn't on there?
30,000 is, there was a,
This is what's budgeted.
Right, and we didn't spend it, so it went from 5,000 back to 30,000.
I
We-
figured if we didn't use $30,000, why budget 30,000 again?
well,
That's why I
what,
took it down to 5,000.
Yeah, but now you went back to 30.
what we need to realize is
The
that
pool
the
expense.
That's what I'm
pool,
asking.
the pool chemicals are gonna be close to
And we hadn't ordered it.
$30,000.
So that's
had
the
just
big
for the
one for that one,
chemicals, yeah.
okay. So we don't need the 2,000 that was on line 18 that's now gone away.
No, it needs to
Okay.
go back to the 30. We hadn't
Okay.
ordered the chemicals yet, so, and I don't.
I knew that was the big one, the big hit, because you and I talked about that
Right.
before. Okay. I just wondered why it went from one amount to another amount, and
That
then
was
the other
one of the
one totally
questions that
disappeared.
I was gonna run by the clerk, I guess.
Okay. Can we get a copy of the employees in this area then?
I'm gonna try to make a spreadsheet with everybody's department and who's in there, so that we can know who's where. The thing we have is, everybody kind of works everywhere.
Hmm.
And so that's part of it. I have.
They
this-
sort of have them listed though, as to who
Yeah.
is supposed to fit where,
Yeah.
whether they stick with that.
Well, the thing with that is, I don't know anybody outside of this office, so, and they don't terminate people in the software. We have people still in there from like 98, and I
That's
don't know if
true.
they're still here or not, because I don't know them. So I'm trying to get a spreadsheet together with who's actually here and where they're working from.
I'll see if I can help you with
Well,
that.
if you could get that, and also with what their pay rate is.
It'll have that and whatever benefits they have
Okay,
for each one, department-wise, that's,
Awesome.
We have several more part-time now than we
yes, and that's
used to.
probably a lot to do with the mowing issue. There are a lot of part-time people here on the year, Tuesday and Thursday. 1
Contrary to
12,
popular
1 to
belief,
12,
I'm gonna say most of the guys work pretty good. There's an awful lot of mowing in this town. Industrial Park, Legion Hills, airport, ball fields. It's probably a lot more gets done than maybe everybody sees. That's just a thought that I
You're
had.
directing that at me, but our town's
I
not
know
that big
both of
for as many employees as we have, I guess.
How many employees do you think we have out there on mowers, just out of curiosity?
How many do I think?
Yeah.
2 or 3, I imagine.
Yeah, so I was gonna say probably 2 full-time and a part-time.
Right, I know who
But-
they are.
That's quite a bit of mowing.
I understand.
Ours
Lots
is
of
just
miles to cover, no
supervision of the bad ones. Cause
Do
the
what?
bad ones give the good ones a bad name.
It's just me.
Hey,
It's
Betty.
not Booger, it's just me.
Well, is everybody good with this so far? Hopefully it was somewhat informative. If there's any questions for Ryan and Perry,
I need to go feed my dogs.
Feed myself.
Basically, what I need to know is what needs to be presented, and I put the numbers in and present it. That's kinda all I'm here for, to keep the law part in check. So I'm telling y'all what needs to be presented, by when, and then y'all tell me whatever goes on.
I'll be back.
okay?
Well, you
Oh, I
better.
can't walk.
Well, we have to, did y'all open the meeting?
We have to
Yeah,
adjourn.
you did.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to adjourn.
Okay, can we have a
Judy, we
motion
have to
and a
adjourn.
second to adjourn?
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay.